Hey, if you understand sine numbers, that's money. It is money. Here's the deal. Think of IOUs as negatives. All right, if you have a -6, it means you owe somebody $6 for lunch or whatever. If you have dollars, that's a positive number. So you have -6 plus 10, you have $10, but you owe 6. Well, you can use 6 of these $10 to pay that guy off. So altogether, this whole thing is worth 4. So again, $6 of this pays off 6 of the IOU. You're left with 4 extra dollars. So the net result is that it's a +4. Whereas if you have this situation, you owe $5 to somebody for lunch yesterday, and now you owe another $7 for lunch today, you're in deep sludge. So right now, altogether, you owe $12. So you add the two negatives together and you get a 12. By the way, a couple of things. Almost every year if I ask kids, what's a negative plus a negative? Most kids say positive because they've just been memorizing things. Be careful. You don't have to memorize. You can think things through, then you understand, and then you have answers without having to rely on your memorization. A negative plus a negative is a bigger negative. You now owe $12. By the way, when you have this situation of a -5 plus a -7, we can do something. We can change addition to its opposite operation, which is subtraction, as long as we change this number to its opposite number under addition. The opposite of -7 is 7. So this problem can be rewritten as -5 minus 7. So -5 minus 7 is equivalent to -5 plus a -7. If it makes it more easy for you to take this problem and write it this way, add a line, change a sign, teachers will say, I'd rather say change from subtraction to addition, the opposite operation, by making this number the opposite of what it was. If it was a +7, it now becomes a -7. It's opposite. These two things are equivalent. And think about it. You owe $5, you have to take away another $7, so you're even further in debt. So this is also equal to a -12. So let's suppose you have this much. You have a $20 bill, a $20 bill, a $10 bill, and you're going to take away a $10 bill. Well, I think that we can see that if we start with this, I shouldn't use that color, let's use this color. If we start with this in our wallet, and then we take away a 10, this means take away a 10, and what you're left with is 40. So what this problem could be looked at is, you start out with $50, a 20 plus a 20 plus a 10, and you're taking away $10. So this is equivalent to what I had written in green originally. So hey, yeah, 50 minus 10 is 40. Seems simple, but it's nice for us to look at it that way in terms of money, because we can now look at it in terms of IOUs. Let's suppose you're carrying $60 in your wallet, but you also have an IOU for $10. You owe somebody $10 for buying a movie ticket or something like that. Well, if we go to this problem down here, what if we again started out with all of this? So here's what we started out with, just what we had right there. But now we're going to say, now let's take away a -10. When you take away a -10, that's a good thing. Look what happens from what you started with. If you take away the -10, that's as good as giving you $10. Because after all, look what we started with. We had 60, but we owed 10. So what we really started with was a net $50. That's what we really were worth when we had this in our wallet. But the minute we take that $50 and somebody takes away a -$10, that's a good thing. If you look at the way that that -10, that IOU was taken away, what are you left with? You're left with $60. So 50 minus a -10 is really equivalent to 60, because taking away an IOU for $10 is just as good as somebody giving you $10. So the trick we do in math is we say, hey, add a line, change the sign, or whatever, or change this from subtraction to addition. Make sure you change this number from a -10 to its opposite, which is +10. So this is equivalent to this. Now I know it's simple to memorize and just do this, but it's nice to be able to wrap your brain around what's happening there. That shows solid understanding of mathematics. And we want to get to the point where we just say, you know what, taking away a negative 10 is equivalent to adding 10. So that's where you want to get with all this. So think of a money story for 28 minus a negative 7. Think of what you might have in your wallet and then be able to take away a $7 IOU and show what's left. Well, this is what you could have. You could have a $20 bill, a $10 bill, a $5 bill, and an IOU for $7. Do we agree that if we add this up, we have $35, but we owed $7? So what we really have right now is $28. All of this is $28. Now, if we take that $28 and we take away an IOU of $7, because remember, that's what I asked you to do. Write a money story for 28, take away a negative 7. Well, now we can see that the 28 might look like this, where we actually had a $7 IOU. So if we take away the $7 IOU, look what happens. That guy goes bye-bye. What are we left with? We're left with $35. So 28, take away a $7 IOU, is really equivalent to $35. So taking away an IOU of $7, having someone forgive you a debt of $7 is equivalent to them turning around and giving you $7. So whatever it takes to get an understanding for that, do it. And most of you at this level, it's like, I got this stuff down. But the more we understand it, the better off we are. So here's the story. Let's make it a little bit simpler. We owe $10, but somebody's going to forgive us a $15 debt. They're going to take away a negative 15. That's good for us. So we just want to get into the habit of just saying, hey, I'm just going to rewrite this. What's equivalent to taking away a negative is adding a positive. So now we owe $10, but we're getting 15. We have more money than we have IOUs, so we're in good shape. We can pay off the $10 debt with 10 of this. That's why we ultimately use a little subtraction. We say, well, let's take away the $10 debt, and what's left is $5. How about this? A money story for this guy. Remember, multiplication is repeated addition. So this guy really means negative 6 plus negative 6 plus negative 6 plus negative 6 plus negative 6. The story for multiplication would be we have 5 $6 IOUs. We borrowed money every day this last week to go out to lunch with somebody. So we owe that much money. So 5 times 6 is 30, but they're 5 $6 IOUs. They're 5 negatives. And when you keep adding negatives up, they come up to be a negative in the end. So a positive times a negative is a negative if we use our understanding of addition, that sort of thing. So the money story would be we have 5 IOUs, that's bad. We owe 30, so this is worth a negative 30. But what happens here? What do you get when you take a negative times a negative? Well, it would be good to think of taking away that set of 5 IOUs. So we have 5 IOUs, each of $6, but if we take away all those IOUs, then somebody is forgiving us that $30 debt. So taking away a negative 30 is equivalent to adding 30. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So we get positive 30. So if we look at these, what's the idea? We got a negative 2 times 10, that's negative 20. We got a negative times a negative, that's going to give us a positive. Now here's the deal, we have 4 negatives here, so what's the result going to be? Well, when you multiply a negative times a negative, that gives us a positive. This negative times this negative also gives us a positive, so our final result must be a positive number. And now we can just go in and multiply the 2 times the 1 times the 3 times the 2 and get 12. So this must be a positive 12. There's an odd number of negatives over here, so these 2 negatives will multiply together to give us a positive, but these guys right here, there's a negative times a positive, they're going to multiply together to give us a negative. So rather than really memorizing a negative times a negative is a positive times a negative is a negative, when it comes to just doing multiplication and division, the quickest way to do it is just count up how many negative signs you have. There's an odd number, your final answer is going to be negative. There's an even number, 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives, your final answer is going to be positive. So, suggestion was sign numbers. If you're dealing with multiplication and division, just count the number of negatives. If it's odd, the final answer is negative. If it's even, it's positive. But if you're just dealing with addition and subtraction, think of money. Change subtraction to an equivalent addition scenario, because if you have $20 and you take away an IOU of $10, that is just as good as somebody giving you a positive $10. So we can change subtraction to addition by using the opposite of this number. So that's the easiest way, I think, to keep track of signed numbers and be comfortable working with them. A little practice right here. You can look at these numbers. Certainly we can go up here and say, hey, taking away a negative 12 is as good as giving us 12. There's an even number of negatives, and we're doing all multiplication and division, so that answer is going to be positive. That answer is going to be positive because there's 2 negatives. This goes back to the money thing. We have $6. We take away $20. We're $14 in debt. So there's just a quick look at signed numbers. Good luck.